We took for granted, when you're healthy, none of these things matters. But when you are not, when you start to lose your mobility, mentally as well, then you got a problem. How are we going to take care of our elders? And that's including myself, right? Who's going to take care of me?
喺睇片之前，大家記得分享、讚好同訂閱卓見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁你就唔會錯過我哋嘅最新影片。
If you're from Asia, this is actually a very common phenomenon today. We are aging in Asia. And Japan is leading the pack, and so is Hong Kong coming next, and so is Taiwan, so is Thailand, China. We are all aging fast. Today in Hong Kong, right now, out of our 7.45 million people, about 1.75 million, the age of about 65. It's about 65. Well, you said that number is still manageable. By the year of 2046, 36% of our population will be seniors. And that is also about the same percentage you see in Taiwan, Thailand, China, and many parts of Asia. It's super alarming because Hong Kong is also notoriously, we are number one actually, we always want to be number one of something. But this number one is actually not very good. That is, we have the lowest birth rate in the world. It's below 1. So in other words, we have a very smaller workforce, but yet we have an aging population that we need to support financially. So this is not good. Not only that this is financially not very sustainable, but there's a bigger issue of how are we going to take care of our elders? And that's including myself, right? Who's going to take care of me? So how do we address this problem? So I want to, I know my friends is here. Hoi Wei, where are you in the room? You're here, Hoi Wei. Okay, my former colleague. Just now I was being introduced as a former chairman of the Hong Kong Council of Social Service. He was the CEO. So he's actually the one who do all the work. So back in I double check within the date before I come to this forum because I want to highlight a story. So back in 2016, one day he called me up. He said, hey, we are leading a delegation, the Council of Social Service. We're going to lead a delegation to Tokyo, right, to attend a exhibition. Because Japan is so far ahead in the curve to address the aging issue. So every year, around the first, second week in October, they host exhibitions, right? Very advanced and adoption of technology to use to deal with this thing. So he said, would you like to come? Honestly, I wasn't interested in the topic because I didn't see myself any need yet, right? I thought, aging, I guess I was 50, and I thought, it's okay, but do I really want to go? But then he reminded me, this is in Tokyo, right? The event is in the Big C, or whatever you call it, is in Odaba. So I thought, oh, it's in Tokyo. So I then asked my wife. I said, would you like to take a few days we have an official excuse. But they don't pay me. We have to pay ourselves. But at least an official excuse. Hey, we want to spend a few days in Tokyo. He thought, oh, okay, not bad. But then my wife asked me, but are you going to be with me? Or are you going to be all the time in this delegation? I said, no. I'm just going to go and take a picture. That's it. I'm not really actually going there. I said, okay. So we decided to go. And we stay in a separate hotel. The delegation stay in a different hotel. I stay in Ginza with my wife. And I still remember I left the room at 8:30. I told my wife, sleep on. I'll come back and join you for lunch, right? Because the exhibition starts at 10. I think we convened, I left my hotel at 8:30. We're supposed to meet at 9. And then we'll take a train into Odaba. And all this time, I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to go there. By the entrance, take a group photo, the delegation, maybe take a loop, run round, and then bye-bye. That's it. Come back to join my wife. Anyway, that was the plan. Anyway, as it went, I got there, well, because I had to take a little tour, I was shocked. I was so shocked. It's just unbelievable. Okay, so I was, mind you, I was supposed to really just go there and take a quick look and then come back. And guess what time I actually left the exhibition area? You know what time I left? 6:30. Because that's when they close. And guess what I did? I come back the next day. I didn't even finish. Just to give you an idea, at the time my dad was not already feeling well. So we were looking for a wheelchair for him. And the whole of Hong Kong, it doesn't matter how much, even if you can afford it, there are no more than 12 different choices of wheelchair you can choose. That's all. At that exhibition, I saw 300. It's just so, it just blew you away what the options you can get. And I'm thinking, wow, they are so far ahead of us, because obviously their problems are so far ahead of us too. But we are all getting there. And how prepared are we for that? Right? So and by the way, it doesn't have to be expensive. So I still remember they are robotic, they have all kinds of stuff. But at the end, I couldn't buy most of them because they're so big. Some of the things are so big. So I bought something, how do I remember? I bought back something as basic as, you know what? And it's only cost 600 yen at that time. You know what I bought? Something I can easily carry home. In fact, did I check in? I may have to check in. Do you know what I bought for 600 yen? And turns out that was so useful. Not immediately, a few years later, I gave it to my father and he was using it. You know what was that? It's a fork. Okay? Now what's so interesting about this fork? Well, it's just a fork, but instead of just pointed like this, it's zigzag. So what happened was when you age, you lose your mobility and you can't hold on to it. As simple as that. We took for granted. But as you age, you just lose the mobility and it slips. So this thing is actually like a little for baby. It just sticks there, it stays there. And guess what? A few years later, my dad was using that to eat his noodles. It was as cheap as 600 yen, but it really helps to address an issue. So it's as detailed as that. And we took for granted, when you're healthy, none of these things matters. But when you are not, when you start to lose your mobility, mentally as well, then you got a problem. Then you got a problem. And Hong Kong has a bigger issue, and that is coming back to here. Because of the, as you can see, we are a very dense city here. Right? With this aging population, our policy in Hong Kong to address that is not like nursing home, because we just don't have that space for nursing home. So basically, the policy is for people to age in place. Aging in place is our national policy. What does it mean by aging in place? Meaning you are staying home. There's no other places that we can, well, today slightly changing is all of a sudden the idea of retiring in Chinese mainland is now an option. I still remember 10 plus years ago, remember 10 years ago, the Hong Kong government at the time, we decided to explore the idea of, maybe retiring in the Chinese mainland. The Hong Kong government funded 2 retirement homes as a trial in the Chinese mainland. One is just right across the border in Shenzhen, and one is Shaoxing, right? I think it's Shaoxing. Further away, like 2 hours plus away. The one across the border is just less than 30, 40 minutes at the time. Today it's even closer because of the new border crossing. Anyway, so I went to check it out, right? These 2 nursing homes. It was a complete flop. I was like, why? And by the way, fully funded by the government. In other words, it costs you nothing. But yet the seniors were not interested to take up that offer. So the retirement home at the time, right, across from Shenzhen, like half empty. I was like, how could that be? It's a much, much, much better living environment, fully funded by the government, but yet almost no take-up. And the answer I was told was, well, it's not just about having a place to stay. The most important thing is about healthcare, right? And because they don't trust the healthcare on the Chinese mainland side, so what about the logistic of bringing them back to Hong Kong? So in fact, the retirement homes arrange shuttle to take them back to Hong Kong side, right? And then the next concern is, well, if my family put me there, they will never come back to visit me, right? So isolation, and then of course is the change of environment. They grew up in even they grew up in Mong Kok, in one of these very unpleasant neighborhood, but still, it is a neighborhood they are familiar with. If you simply just drop them in the brand new neighborhood, they have no friends. That's another concern. So amazingly, they was not successful at that time. Today, after COVID, wow, things are changing. People start to, I don't know what happened, but it's over the last couple of years, people are so willing to accept of crossing the border. Now, perhaps one of the reasons is the standards in the Chinese mainland has raised. The medical standards have raised. The healthcare system is now, I guess, being accepted. And because of that increased mobility, it's no longer as if like, oh, that's like a different place. People are now more willing. So would that help to address this issue? Because we just don't have the resources to deal with the aging population. But until that, today, the policy is still centered in aging in place at home. But your home is not ready for that. Even my home too. I can remember because I lived with my father at the time. He passed away during COVID. But even that, I can afford it, but we are not, none of our homes were designed to address those things. And so what do you do? So even with this policy in place, how do you address all these other issues? That's why the adoption of technology is so important. So when we came back in 2016 on that trip, it was really like mouth-dropping. By the way, in case you're interested, I'll give you the website. You missed this year because it's October, usually the first, second week of October. You just have to go back next year. It's HCR. It's called, the whole full name is called International Home Care and Rehabilitation Exhibition and Forum, something like that. So the website is hcr.or.jp. So hcr.or.jp. I guarantee it'll blow you away. Because but you know what, though? The most fascinating thing was, so as we were going around, I thought, wow, this is so amazing. Would you be interested to export to Hong Kong? So we asked almost every exhibitor if they would be interested to bring to Hong Kong. Every single one of them said no to me. Some through the interpreter. And I said, why not? I was wondering maybe because it's such a huge demand in Japan that they don't even care about export outside. Maybe Japan already a big market. Turns out one of the exhibitors told us the main reason they are not considering is, this is so Japanese, right? They are so honorable. They said, no, we're not just interested in selling you the product. We are equally really mindful about after-sale service. So until we have an after-sale service arrangement, and of course they have to trust, they have to find a very reliable local agent to deal with the after-sale service, so they will not be interested to sell you. And I thought, wow, this is such Japanese concept. They really think through everything. But guess what? Immediately I already thought of, oh my goodness. A Chinese company will come in, they'll copy your design, and they'll mass produce, and they'll sell first. Once they get the market share, they'll think about after-sale service. And guess what? Surely that happened. And guess what? So we went there almost 10 years ago. Chinese manufacturer weren't there yet. Today, wow, the Chinese are making the similar product and better. Right. So back then we're thinking, wow, they are expensive coming in. Now we can just cross the border, and because they are also facing the same issue in Chinese mainland. Aging is an issue too. So the Chinese government are equally now interested in this topic, and you have now lots of other more choices to consider. And so lesson learned. I thought at that time I was quite amazed that they weren't interested to even consider exporting to Hong Kong. Now, so what sort of products are we talking about? So here we are addressing issues of about, since we're thinking about aging in place. So one of the most important things that we have to deal with is healthcare. But now with the products, you can remotely, you don't even have to go to a clinic. You can remotely, because remotely can monitor you. There's so many different gadgets you can find readily available now that you can help to monitor the movement, monitor your vital sign. You can all do that remotely. You don't even have to be in the clinic to do so. The bigger concern also is food. As you age, when your person age, you're not going to be able to eat normally. So in fact, at the Council of Social Service, we recently have introduced a standard for the soft food. I think it's the next one here. I don't know.
眼罩手製66歲嘅朱女士開始喺虛擬廚房煮食。
They're using the technology to help you how to cook.
朱女士大約5年前開始記憶力變差，今年7月獲轉介嚟聯合醫院職業治療部參加院方首次引入嘅 VR 虛擬實境煮食盤古同訓練計劃。
You all do now.
我煮食嘅
問題咧， when you reach 90 and beyond，
經常咧就遊魂到嚟講咧就係以10餐啦8餐到啦。
Basically, it's teaching you, reminding you how food is being prepared at home by yourself.
我認識到喎，係喎，我真係唔可以一心二用嘅噃，係喎，我有。呢一個問題點解我唔去改善呢？
So I mentioned about healthcare is one issue. How do we take care of the elders, do the periodical checkup and so on? Then the next is food preparing. Again, simple thing is this. If you're living by yourself, especially, who's going to take care of you? These sort of things. So the next one is, apart from how do you, because your memories are not as sharp as before, so that's one issue. Then the food you eat, this is what I was saying, soft food. So that's so we are now setting a standard.
為咗令到吞嚥困難人士有啖好食，社聯自2017年起開始推動照護食發展。喺上年推出全港首份照護食標準指引之後，得到商界、醫護界及社福界廣泛應用，亦鼓勵更多嘅公司同社會企業推出照護食產品。跨界別共創照護食生態系統。
首先啦，個照護食指引咧，其實而家都係一個業界使用嘅標準嘅指引啦。咁可以咧幫助我哋令到更多大眾市民知道我哋呢個軟餐係一個標準，咁從而令佢哋方便選購。我哋喺翻我哋包裝上面啦，同埋海報上面啦，都會多翻呢啲照護食同埋一啲 DSI 呢個第4級嘅級別咧，咁入翻落去我哋嘅產品裏邊嘅。咁啊，另外啦，喺方面啦，我哋覺得係可以一個教育嘅意義，讓我哋更加知道原來香港係有軟餐，亦都有一個照護食嘅標準喺度。其實我哋嘅心願啦，作為首間嘅連鎖快餐店推出呢個軟餐嘅時候，我哋好希望業界同埋大眾市民更加了解到咩嘢係一個照護食，乜嘢係軟餐，希望每一個吞嚥有困難嘅人士可以食得開心。
Okay, so I don't know what the Holy Spirit has prepared for us. Maybe we were never meant to live beyond 60. But today, as Hong Kong also has the highest, I think, what is the age? 83 for men, 86 or 7 for women or something. We live very long, right? The problem is, as I said, I don't think we are equipped yet for the living environment, to the food, to everything. Right? And as we age even, now going to 90 is actually not uncommon at all. I really worry about Europe. When I was in Europe, each time, and in fact last year when I was in Paris for the Olympic, so I had to take the mass transport. My goodness, the subway, there's so many steps. I have a hard time walking up and down. I can imagine you are 80 and plus. But because the city is built so much earlier, right? There's a 100-year-old city, so the system is so old. Thank goodness in this city, every subway station has, disabled access, they have lift and so on. But can you imagine that, otherwise you cannot even get around the city, right, with a wheelchair? Forget about if you can imagine if you have to use a wheelchair or a walker. So this is going to be a big problem for every major city, is how, especially urbanization is so phenomenal. Most city now has the largest population, but most city, unless you are a new city, you are not equipped to address this aging phenomenon. This is a huge topic that I think every city, maybe not now, as I mentioned, maybe not our generation, for sure the next generation, because by 2046, every of these major countries in this region will reach 35 to 40% of their population above 65. So, all right, and what is this? So we are using a lot of robotic. Let's see if this is working. So this is interesting. When we went back in 2016, we saw a lot of robots, and I thought, come on, we don't need a robot to keep us company. Well, it turns out, actually, this is a quite interesting phenomenon, because when you're all by yourself, robot become your really good friend to keep you company. There's another interesting phenomenon. I think for those in Hong Kong, you probably already noticed by now. The younger population, they don't like to have kids. They like to have pets. So the pet economy is now really booming. So I'm also the chairman for West Kowloon Cultural District. So we just opened the ferry, the new ferry that's connecting the Art District with Central, right? So we just started 2 weeks ago. On the first weekend, the ferry is packed. But guess what? What's the ratio between pets and human? What's the ratio, 1-to-1 ratio. And guess what? The ferry company also charged the pet the same amount of money to human. $20 for human, $20 for pet. Each pet. It's big business. Big business. Well, so that's why we got a problem. They don't. Yeah. Oh no, some are in stroller. The pets is in the stroller. Yeah, the pets are. It's just human. It's a human replacement. No, but it is an issue. So when you have this that's why I say that demographic is, we got a problem as you continue to age and a fewer young population. The younger generations have different priorities these days sometimes, right? So these are the real issues that we have to address. So for the future, how do we deal with these demographic changes and the needs of that generation? And every one of us will in that journey. Because, and especially when you have aging parents at home, then you know what it meant. 10 years, when Huawei first took me on that trip, I knew that it's coming, but I didn't feel it. And then soon after that, when my father was at that stage when I have to look after him. So this is another big issue. It's not just the aging population, it's the caretaker is a big issue. Who's going to take care of them? Now, we are so lucky in Hong Kong. The way how we resolve this issue of aging in place, there's only one solution so far we found. You know what that is? Hong Kong is so blessed that we have this one formula that most other cities and countries don't have in the scale like we have. Domestic helpers. Without the domestic helpers, we're dead. Why dead? Because we all have to stay home and take care of our parents. The whole productivity would drop. For our friends from overseas, we have more than 300,000 domestic helpers. Domestic helpers meaning they're foreign workers. Right? We are predominantly the Filipinos and the Indonesian. There's over 300,000 of them. Without those 300,000 workers, our middle class will be like completely wiped out because they all have to stay home. But because of that, we took for granted too. They're there at home. They're not really actually qualified, but that's the best help you can get. So in Japan, we saw all these robotic things, right? In Hong Kong, forget about robotic. We use the helpers. Right? If it wasn't for them, I don't know how we can address all these other issues we are facing. But is that a sustainable solution? So basically, because today, whether it's mostly in institutions, you need at least 2 to 3 people to move a patient from the bed to the chair, and so on and so on. With the adoption of technology, when I was in Tokyo, I saw these robotics, much more fancy than this. You only need one person. You still need a caretaker, but at least you hopefully try to keep it to just one, because you just don't have that spare capacity anymore. So the adoption of the robots is a big deal. We are so blessed because when Hoi Wei and I mentioned to you, we went 2016 to Tokyo. We came back and we thought, wow, we must do something about it in Hong Kong. So we're fortunate because we were, Hoi Wei, after we came back, we wrote a letter to our chief secretary at that time, Carrie Lam. And we told her what we have discovered. and of course, I also spoke to her. I said, we must do something. We must introduce this exhibition to Hong Kong to show people what sort of technologies can help to enhance the efficiency and reduce burden and so on and so on. So she was somewhat, our chief executive, at that time she was chief secretary. She was somewhat interested. Then they said, okay, explore. So we've then subsequently sent an official delegation, the government, to explore the idea to introduce this exhibition to Hong Kong, to bring some of the products to Hong Kong. By the way, at the exhibition must be like 20,000 products. But our idea is to bring in maybe just a few hundred, 200 or so to Hong Kong to open the idea to the people here. And the government funded it. So we have it was a joint thing. So in 2017, and then the timing can't be better. A few months later, Carrie Lam was elected the chief executive of Hong Kong. So now she's the #1 of Hong Kong. So she gave the green light, and then subsequently we opened our first exhibition in Hong Kong. So it's only a year later. Now, usually, can you imagine, bureaucracy in any government takes forever. We did it in less than 1 year, basically. After we went there, the government said, great, we support you. I mean, they funded us, and we bring it to Hong Kong. So 2017 is when we first, so GIES is the exhibition. It's called Giron Technology. What does ES stand for? I forgot. Anyway, GIES is the exhibition in Hong Kong. So the first one we started with just only, I think, 200. And then as we evolved, and then later on, this is the most important thing. In 2019, SWD stands for Social Welfare Department. So basically government, they gave us 1 billion Hong Kong dollar. So that we can go and buy these products to Hong Kong, and so that the institutions and the care homes in Hong Kong, they can go and apply. Now, of course, we have to screen what sort of product, which one, because there are all kinds of products, but then which one is actually workable, which is not. Some of them are so big, it may not be applicable to Hong Kong, so we have to fine-tune all this thing. So the government gave the $1 billion in such a short time, because we recognize that's a problem. And then, of course, we evolve into many different things later on, if you can just see here. And now they extend that to another. So after the 1 billion, I think 750 million has been already been used. So the government just recently launched a new round, so that we can the institutions, care home in Hong Kong can continue to apply. One other thing we also launched is very important. I'll finish it here. Is that when you buy these things, like you buy the bed, you buy the chair, wheelchair, all these things, I mean, sad to say, maybe you only use it for a few years. Then what do? So we look at the Japanese model, is that they have a rental services. And that's what we did. So we start up this program now. You can lease from us. Right? You can lease from us, and of course we have to do the cleaning and everything so we can recycle them. Because can you imagine, you buy these beds, what are you going to do with it after that? Your family is not going to use it, so we have to recycle them. So all these ideas we're still working on because we have a long way to go to address this phenomenon that we all need to think about, because it's coming fast, whether you like it or not. So we have to deal with the aging population and also the caretakers. As I keep emphasizing, the caretakers is also an issue. When you have fewer and fewer people who's going to look after us? So if we don't equip the caretakers, they're not going to be taking care of us. So I think technology for good, but I think the adoption of technology clearly can also help us to tackle some of these other more imminent issues we are addressing in the society. And we'll look forward to any potential collaboration. I know in Taiwan and in mainland Chinese mainland, we are all looking at the same topic. So any collaboration, because there's no territorial limitation. Everybody is trying to solve this problem together. So any opportunity we can work together, please look us up too. Thank you.
中意名家分析，記得俾 like 同埋分享，支持同訂閱卓見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁就唔會錯過我哋嘅新片。